Morning everybody. I thought I'd do a little video about the Allegro today, so bear with me. Unfortunately it's very windy, so I can't really film outside walking around the car, but I can film inside where it's a little bit more bit quieter, so bear with me. Sorry about the poor quality of the filming. It is just handheld on my phone, but here we are inside my Allegro. It's a 1975 Austin Allegro 1100 DL, which means DL for deluxe. Being a Leyland car, there's not anything very deluxe about a deluxe. It's actually the base model. So Leyland used to cover their tracks a little bit really by calling all their basic cars a deluxe, and then the range kind of increased upwards. So you had a super deluxe, and rather amusingly with the Allegro, there was a thing called a 1750 Super Sport, which they abbreviated on the badge to SS, which probably wasn't a very good idea in the 1970s. It wasn't really a pair of initials that would endear itself to many people buying cars in Britain, or certainly not elsewhere anyway. So the model was quietly renamed at a later point, and they tweaked the range and moved it all around. But anyway, typical kind of Leyland. So this is a DL, Deluxe, and the Deluxe means really that it has things like, if you see the door tops, it's a painted finish rather than extending the vinyl all the way to the top. I don't know why they did that really. It's almost like they kind of rub it in, the fact that you didn't pay a bit more for another 1.5 inches of vinyl, but never mind. Then you've got things like the rubber flooring. So rather than having carpet, it's got like a kind of van type rubber flooring like you get in vans nowadays. And it's really a kind of look at what you could have won experience in here, because there's very little in terms of things like options or extras. Sorry about the camera work. The dashboard has got these two dials. It's then got a radio blanking plate because there's no radio, and it's got loads of blanking plates for all the other things you didn't get. So no cigar lighter, whatever the switch would have been on that side. It's just got hazard warning lamps and heated window, and then all the basic controls really, things like obviously a light switch and the indicator stalks and the wiper stalk. So there's really not much going on in here. You do get an ashtray because everybody had to smoke in those days, and there's one in the front, and then there's one in each of the doors in the back, so the kids can join in as well. No seat belts when it was new. The rear seats had mounting points like all cars did, so I fitted lap belts in this car, a bit like you get in an aeroplane. So should anyone be captured and put into the back of this car, in terms of my kids, because most of them don't want to be seen dead in it at all, but if they do, they can wear a seat belt. So there we are. The front seat belts, this has got the inertia reel type. They were actually an added extra when you bought a car from Leyland in the 70s. That would appear on the invoice. So although you couldn't order it without them, you tended to pay extra for them. You can just see there behind me is a coat hook, a little very simple round like a bobbin thing to hang your jacket on. But there really isn't much going on equipment wise. It's very simple. There's one light up here, the interior lamp, and that's about your lot really. It has got a visor on each side, but no mirror. Obviously you knew that you were good looking enough to be buying an Allegro in the first place. And yeah, very simple. This is what we call a series of 1.5 Allegro, so it's got the round steering wheel rather than the square type. The car famously was launched with a Quartix square steering wheel, and good old Leyland thought that would be a good idea. Nobody else did, least of all the police, who were normally big fleet buyers of Leyland cars, and had always used in London the Austin 1100 as a Panda car, normally as a two-door 1100, and so the nearest equivalent would be the Allegro two-door 1100, which was the same model as this one really. So the police were quite horrified that they got this square steering wheel which didn't really fit in with their police driver training. So they insisted on having a round wheel fitted, and in the end Leyland just quietly caved in and put the round wheel on all the Allegros. So thanks to the police really for making sure that we could all drive in more traditional way with the steering wheel. Nowadays those square wheels are worth a lot of money, and quite a few Allegros get fitted with the earlier wheel, because the first thing you get whenever anyone looks at this car is, has it got a square steering wheel? So you spend your whole life explaining why it hasn't got one, and actually the square wheels, they change hands for sort of anything between sort of 80 and £100 normally. There's probably more steering wheels left than there are cars, because there are so many cars were scrapped, and that was a bit of a trophy. It was such an Allegro thing that many of those wheels were kept back. So one day I will treat myself, if that's the right word, and invest in a Quartic wheel, not to put in the car, but to hang it on the wall as a bit of a man room thing. What else is there to say about one of these? There really isn't a lot going on inside an Allegro. There's not much else I can show you features wise. It's very, very simple stuff, and that's part of the attraction really. As a classic car, this car raises a lot of eyebrows when you go down the road in it. You can always tell the reaction from people. The people that obviously thought they were dreadful back in the day tend to sort of fall about laughing or point towards them, and you just know that they're saying, I had one of those, or Auntie Flo had one. Young people tend to look at it and say, oh, that's really cool, it's a bit of 70s stuff. Well, my kids will be falling about laughing at the idea of it being cool. They certainly don't think I'm very cool. But it's got that 70s vibe to it, like a space hopper. So it is a car, a symbol of the decade, really. And that appealed to me. I wanted a car that would have a kind of a story to it. And also the fact that it's the worst car ever made in the eyes of many people really appealed to my sense of humour. I'm very lucky I get to work with the opposite end of the spectrum and work with supercars and beautiful classic cars. So having this one, it really is quite funny, because people say, well, what do you drive? And I tell them, and they just think, no, seriously, what do you drive? And that really appeals to me. I love the fact that when you come in to buy an Aston Martin, you're going to be met by somebody that drives an Allegro, or in the case of Nick, my partner in crime at work, a Mini Moke. So two very weird kind of cars that you wouldn't expect supercar car company people to be driving. But there we go, that's real life for you. Makes it fun, and it's a great conversation starter. I can go anywhere in this car, and I have done already some rather interesting days out with it. Probably one of the more stranger ones was taking the car to Aston Hill when we were filming a little video with a 1920s Aston and Darren Turner. And Darren, bless him, turned up and said, oh, my dad used to have an Allegro. So even that was a bit of an icebreaker in terms of conversation on the day. I've got to know Darren quite well over the years, and whenever we bump into each other, it normally gets onto the Allegro at some point. So again, that's quite funny that someone who made their name racing at Le Mans should be interested in an Austin Allegro. But anyway, it's all good fun. And what other things have I done? Well, I've met Harris Mann, the man who designed it. Got to know Harris, lovely, lovely man. And also took the car back to where it was built, back to Longbridge, and met some of the people that lovingly put it together. They weren't overly chuffed at me being there, and it was a bit of a strange experience, but never mind. So yeah, lots of adventures with this funny little thing, and I hope it does continue at some point when we're all allowed to go back to normal again and get things like car shows back. And it's pretty ropey at the moment. A lot of people are just bored to tears, particularly at the weekend when you're out doing stuff normally. Maybe even more cruel by the fact that the weather is actually not too bad at the moment, and it's almost tempting people away from their sofas. But please don't feel that you need to go anywhere unless you need to go and do something essential. The only way we're going to get back to any normality is to try and keep away from each other. And it's really, really hard. I can't see Tilly, my daughter, at the minute because she lives with her mum, and the best thing I can do is to leave her there and not go and see her, tempting though it may be. But it is really hard to do that, and the same applies really to Alex and Noah and Sean, who lives with our baby grandson over in Warwick, so we can't go and see them either because it's not the right thing to do. We don't want to risk contaminating anybody. So yeah, it's really hard, but if you're out there, I hope these funny little videos are making it a bit more bearable, and I'll try and keep them coming over the next few weeks, months. God help you, I'm sure you're all thinking, oh no, not more of this rubbish. So just hit the delete button if you don't like it. But I hope you're all okay. I hope you're well. Stay safe, stay indoors, and stay tuned for more automotive fun. Thanks very much. Bye bye.